Okay, in this tutorial, we will use a hardware block, a loop block, a logic block, and a time block. What I want the code to do is get velocity from a smart cart sensor continuously, compare it to a velocity of 1 meter per second. It could be any value, but that's the value I will use. And when it's over that value of 1 meter per second, display the velocity and the time at which it occurs while the code is running. So the blocks that we're going to use are all over here to the left. We'll use them for the first time. These note blocks were just here for me to look at and read right now, but I won't need them anymore. And let's get started. So if we're getting values from a sensor is hardware, and if I have a smart cart, I'm going to pull this in here. It's the value of the force sensor is default, but since the smart cart is connected by Bluetooth, I know I can get any value off there. I want velocity, and meters per second is the default units. There are other units to pick from, but I will use this. Now, in my code, I want to use this value, so I have to create a variable that will have the velocity value. So in variables, I will create variable, call it velocity, and I will set velocity to whatever the sensor says it is. And just thinking ahead here now, I want to continuously read the value. So I need a loop, and I can have a loop that repeats 10 times, and it would go very fast depending on what's being done in the loop. But computers can go real fast. So I want here repeat while a condition is true. And I can do repeat while something's true or until something's true. I want while. And the value 1 meter per second velocity is what I want to go until I hit that value. So I will use a logic statement, which is I can use an if something is true, then do something. Here I just want to test to see if a condition is true or not. So that's what this block does. And I want to compare my velocity value to the value 1 meter per second. So I just need to put a 1 in there. It doesn't know what the units are. Just velocity is some numerical value, and is it not equal to 1, but is it less than 1? If it's less than 1, I want it to keep reading the values. So I'm going to put this here, but before I do that, I'm going to do a double two-finger click, which is like a right click, and I'm going to duplicate this here, and I'm going to do the reading in here while it's less than 1. The velocity is less than 1 from the sensor. I also need this before I do anything else, because I need to set the velocity value to use it here. The computer's going to need to know what it is to get started to see if it's less than 1. And if it is less than 1, it will continue to set the velocity to whatever the smart cart says the value is, and it could be increasing towards 1 or going up and down, but it will continuously monitor it and reset the value. Now, once it does go over 1, I want to display what the velocity is and the time. So I want to do that in a text block, and I'm going to use this right here to create a text block. It's going to be a mixture of text strings and numerical values. So first, the statement will start with a text string that says the velocity is space, and it is whatever the velocity reads when it comes out of that repeat loop. Now I want to add some more to the statement. So if I go to the gearbox here, I can add items in, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to need 5 from my thinking of this ahead of time. And when I'm done doing that, I'm going to put this right there. So the velocity is whatever that number is. And you know what? I'm going to do one more item in here. And I want to put units of meters per second in here. So I will get rid of that. Get another text block here. And so space meters/second. So that will put units on that number. And I want to continue making a statement. The velocity is, say, 1.2 meters per second. Space when time is, and now I need to put a time value in here. So I go to the time block, and I can get the time in ms, milliseconds, which is 1,000 milliseconds is 1 second. So this gives me the time in milliseconds. I want it in seconds, so I'll have to do a little math here. I'm going to take the millisecond time, and I'm going to divide it by 1,000. So if it was 1,000 milliseconds, and I divide by 1,000, I would get 1. So this will give me time in seconds. So when the time is some number, and I want the statement to put units on that, units of seconds. I did a space S. I want to have a space between the number and the unit. Now I'm ready to send that to an output. So if you recall, I need a code output. In this case, I have a text string, so I'm going to create text output. I'm going to call this message from SmartCart. And now I can put this block there after the loop is done. Put this text there. I don't need these any longer, these notes. And I think I'm ready to test this. I have my carts already hooked up. I'm going to select as a measurement something that's user entered, my message from the smart cart. And I'm going to click start and then make the cart move. And you can see there, and without much time going by, the velocity of the cart went over 1. And at 0.98466 seconds, it was at this velocity. I would not want to report all these decimal places. We'll have to talk about a way to cut that back in the future. But right now, we've been successful. The velocity is 1.27 meters per second when time is 0.98466 seconds. So we have successfully read the smart cart sensor. We did it continuously until a logic block told us it was over 1, and we stopped this repeat of the reading of the smart cart sensor, and then took whatever the last value of the velocity was and put it, embedded it in a statement here with some strings of text characters, and also included the time in the code at which we got that velocity value. All right, so a good introduction to those 4 blocks, and we'll add on to this in our next tutorial.